Greetings, welcome. My name is Timothy Halloran. I am an evolutionary astrologer. You can hit subscribe below where you will receive 2 videos every month prior to the new or full moons. In this video, we're talking about a partial solar eclipse in the zodiac sign of Taurus. This is our forthcoming new moon. Now, eclipse seasons, which come twice a year, are always significant periods of change. This is where there's always a change up going on in our world, reflected in a change up taking place in our own personal experience. Now, why eclipses are so significant is these take place whenever the sun conjoins the moon's nodes, and this happens twice every year. And the moon's nodes really reflects our evolutionary journey through life, both in our birth chart as well as what's taking place out there in the world through transits. So if you're interested in astrology and you're not familiar with the moon's nodes in your birth chart, these are the points that look like a U or an upside down U. I highly suggest you check out my Astro School. For just $36 a month, you can get an entire education on evolutionary astrology. This next month, I am putting out the lesson on the moon's nodes. This is absolutely life-changing information. So again, if you're not already familiar and you're into astrology, check out my Astro School. Now, these eclipses are really going to set the tone for 2022. This is going to introduce some of the major pivotal themes of this year. Now, the moon's nodes moved into the Taurus-Scorpio polarity at the beginning of this year in January. However, this being our first set of eclipses in the Taurus-Scorpio polarity is very much going to introduce this nodal theme that's going to take us through 2023. Okay, so a solar eclipse is like a super new moon. It is a new beginning. It is a seed sowing opportunity. It is a new direction opening. And this in particular is a north nodal solar eclipse joined with the planet Uranus. And this very much tells us that this is an eclipse that's opening the doorway to the future. This is about new beginnings, new directions, and new possibilities that are just beginning to take birth. This is very much going to take us through summertime. These are some incredibly bumpy, exciting, unpredictable, game-changing months. Summertime 2022. Now, this solar eclipse is in the sign of Taurus. So what we're intending, what we're sowing a seed for, much like Taurus itself, this is the opportunity for us to sow a seed that can grow, that can produce so many results. However, as I mentioned, Uranus with this eclipse can be bringing us into the future so quickly. We may step into the future before we may even realize what's hit us. Now, this eclipse is going to very much highlight all themes Taurus. So get ready, world. We're going to see these themes everywhere. My guess is we're already experiencing Taurus being money, Taurus being food, land, property, resources. Well, guess what? We're talking about a significant change up, new directions in terms of money, resources, agriculture, property, space, and land. And certainly what we're looking at out there in the world is a global economic change-up. Yes, I could call it a crisis, but I think this might be a little misleading because we do have what we need. Taurus is the sign of abundance, and yet we're going through a significant change-up. This is going to be experienced as an agricultural, economic crisis because it's a change-up. And there's going to be a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unpredictability. Uranus is the experience of the rug being torn out from under our feet. So this is what we're experiencing collectively and on the individual level. Where are we going to live? How are we going to produce our crops? How are we going to generate? What we need is a new uncertain experiment. And in that regard, new possibilities can be born that can allow for us to thoroughly reinvent our life. The most needed wisdom of Taurus is less is more. We are collectively moving in a direction towards simplicity, minimalization, self-resourcefulness, sovereignty, easy does it. Less is more is the wisdom of the collective. This is how we can escape the potential trap or pitfall of poverty consciousness, being stuck, dependent on others, being stuck in old patterns. The less is more is going to be the wisdom that we need to reinvent our life in a way that may seem more rich, more abundant, and more sustainable. This is the wisdom of Taurus. If we can be open to that wisdom, we can very much receive it, though it may be a bumpy, unpredictable, highly exciting period. The wisdom of Taurus is that we have what we need in our immediate environment, in our immediate sphere, in ourselves. Taurus is, again, sovereignty. Taurus is self-resourcefulness. So, for example, this change-up of global economy is going to catalyze a shift into local economy, local resources. Who are the people that are around us? What are they producing? What can we trade? How can we create a local community? How can we create a local currency? How are we going to barter to get what we need? Where are those resources? Who are the people that we need in an immediate, accessible type of way? Okay, so this wisdom of Taurus is to come into a closed circuit, sovereign container. This is the wisdom of the hermit from the tarot. This is actually one of the most amazing and significant parts of all life, of all the creation. And I'm going to, complete this video by really digging into the esoteric meaning of Venus and Taurus. But the hermit is the individual who lives with such a high degree of connectivity to nature in themselves. They are not dependent on anything outside of themselves. They are complete. They fill up their own glass. The magician is in contact with their inner muse, their inner Sophia. Every individual has their own specific, unique way of connecting to God, source, spirit, to be full and overflowing with all that we need, the support, the resources, and guidance. So this is the wisdom of Taurus. This is also going to give us a huge prioritization, collective direction, changing of movement towards body, embodiment. While the moon's nodes were in Gemini Sag in 2021, it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of dreaming, it's a lot of philosophizing and arguments. And you know what? This eclipse period is really shifting out of this. It's like, who cares what we believe or what school we're in? How are we living our life? How does our life sustain us? How do we feel when we get up in the morning and when we go to sleep? Taurus is the actual embodied living. Sunrise, sunset, breath in, breath out. It is the fundamental basics of sustaining life. And Taurus is the principle of sustenance, production. It's a very sexual sign. This is the sign of producing, prodigy. Okay, so this very much brings our consciousness into our body. And how is our body moving through our day? This is an opportunity for us to honor our unique biological rhythm, our unique somatic bodily sensual needs. Do you need sunlight? to be able to remember that you're alive? Do you need to be near water to remember your soul? Do you need to smell the trees to remember that you're close to nature? Do you need to hear the birds to remember that you're living? This is Taurus wisdom. Using the body, the senses, tactile feeling to get into the experience of life. And yes, to also enjoy, to experience pleasure. Taurus is the Garden of Eden. For some souls, this eclipse is going to kick off the opportunity to create such a Garden of Eden, pleasure paradise, in our actual physical three-dimensional environment. And that is the potential of being a human being on the earth, is we can create this garden that has more than enough, producing all that we need to not only be in our bodies, but to enjoy this life, to be so honoring our own natural biological rhythm that every moment is bliss. Taurus is the appreciation of life itself. And the appreciation of life requires our slowing down. The appreciation of life requires our tuning into the body and the senses. Do we appreciate life when we're going 1,000,000 miles per hour and there's 1,000,000 things to do in one day? Do we appreciate our life when there's 1,000 people around us pulling in 1,000,000 different directions? Do we appreciate life when it is an incessant drama? We need a pause. We need a break. We need space. We need openness to breathe. Taurus is actual physical spaciousness. Taurus is actual slowness in our pace. So that way we can remember who we are. So we can appreciate what it means to be born alive in a body with flesh on this earth, full of all of this different sense information. So this appreciation is a slowing down, it's a minimalization, it's a less is more wisdom towards embodiment, towards inner connection. Through this self-resourcefulness, we can generate true abundance. Taurus is specifically our value system. This is, again, what we like in our life, what we like on our earth. What we're bringing into our gardens, what we're bringing into our homes that reflects back to us what we love, what we value. That's at the centerpiece of our life. Taurus is temple. Temples were originally created to anchor, to remember, to preserve the Garden of Eden. We can wake up and go to sleep every morning and night in the Garden of Eden. We can wake up in our own literal or metaphorical temple that preserves, that holds, that contains all that we cherish, all that is tasty. Taurus is our taste. It's our style that fills up our own glass from the inside out. Taurus is like an altar space with all of the photos and symbols of our family, the people that we love, the gods that we love, the plants and herbs that we love. And we may be able to sit in front of that altar and simply meditate and simply breathe and allow that information to come into our eyes and burn some incense and put on some nice music, and we fill up our own glass. We are charged with this containment of our own style, taste, and value system. We all must honor what we value in our hearts. We must create this ability to return to the centerpiece. And this richness, this self-sustaining abundance is what will allow for these things to spill over into our surrounding world, relationship, community, and this is what will birth the future world, economic direction, agricultural, It's like what we're going to eat and drink is going to be different than what it was in the past. That's how significant this time period is. In all summertime with Uranus and Taurus on the moon's north node, there's going to be these sudden, unexpected shocks, change-ups. We thought we were going to be able to get this, and now it's no longer there. There's no gas to fill up the car. There's no longer food coming from these countries. And that's going to be, okay, well, if this doesn't work, where do we go next? Where are we going to open? Where are we going to provide? This is where we're going to have to become very genius at how to fill ourselves up on our own. So that way, there's going to be stuff that we're producing and sharing in a world that needs it. The world needs stability. The world needs spaciousness to recollect itself. To be able to have stability means we can process the amount of change, chaos, drama that is to be expected going on in the world at this time. The sovereignty to get out of somebody else's field, somebody else's consciousness is essential for us to return to center, for us to renew our own value system, create a stable container so to anchor it. This is what our body is. It is our temple. It is our container to anchor our consciousness to the earth. Our body is where spirit meets matter, where the two interact. And in order to have that be a blissful, enjoyable, inspiring temple of abundance, we have to have the sovereignty, the space, the slowness. We have to pull ourselves out of the frying pan of other people's interferences, distractions, claustrophobia, close proximity, tight space. That's the bullshit zone. That's where trauma festers and repeats unconsciously. So this space, this simplicity, this self-provision is to have the necessary stability so to process the change, the chaos, and the dramas taking place in the world, being reflected in our relationships. This is a catalyst of our own evolution. This is how life works. This is why the moon's nodes are essential to understand. It's not hard. It's easy. Again, $36 in my Astro School is life-changing information. This is just a few more dollars than a Netflix subscription and much more valuable. Okay? So this catalyst, which is the drama, the claustrophobia, the being wound up in other people or dramas or stuff that's really not us and not really what we want to be wrapped in, it's not really our value system, that gives us a push towards Taurus to create the space, the sovereignty, the room to breathe. There's going to be particular events, experiences, dynamics that are giving us that push. And that can feel a little bit uncomfortable. It's going to feel a little bit claustrophobic. But we can embrace that claustrophobia, welcome it. It's guaranteed to come in some way, shape, or form once the lunar eclipse in Scorpio is shining fully down upon us. Embrace that claustrophobia and embrace that intensity as the necessary motivation to create the space, the sovereignty, and simplicity. This is the opportunity to reinvent our life. Now again, this eclipse joined with Uranus. Moon's north node joined it with Uranus. All these next coming months, May, June, July. These are very fast, sudden, unpredictable, uncertain times. Can also be very disorienting or confusing when all of a sudden our whole life direction, our surrounding environment, where we're living, how we're earning our money changes. And it's important to know that this may be the future coming in before we even recognize it. Uranus is the future is unknown. So we've got to break this new phase in. It's like breaking in a new pair of shoes or a new pair of pants. We've got to try on what's available and see what fits in a very nice Taurus type of way. We don't have to take on what doesn't fit. We don't have to fit into a situation that we don't fit into. And we have to honor our nature. to create a container and environment that suits us, much like a foot in a shoe. So we've got to break these new shoes in. But as we're doing that, let's bear in mind that this may be the future. And the future may be unknown. It may seem therefore daunting, scary, mysterious. What the heck is that? This is so completely different. This is so different than what I was expecting. This is so different than what I would normally do. And yet, if we can embrace the need for flexibility and especially to be experimental, we need to be experimental. It's a global economic meltdown. We don't have the same infrastructures that we used to rely on. So of course we need to be experimental. Of course we need to try things out. We need to think creatively. We need to be willing to take risks. We need to be willing to do things differently. That's going to pay off. If we're dragging our heels against change under these eclipses, this time period can really beat us up. The stability that we can be creating in a Taurus way can be honoring our flow, our rhythm. Doesn't mean that we have to hold fast to one thing. That's when we're more likely to experience a crisis. Say if we're addicted and we only eat one food, we eat macaroni and cheese all day, every day, which isn't the healthiest way to begin with, right? Well, if there's a macaroni and cheese shortage, that's going to be a lot more devastating to the person that only knows how to eat macaroni and cheese. We need to be creative with Taurus. What are the other ways to get what macaroni and cheese may do to us? This is going to be some of that creativity to actually anchor the Eden paradise container that provides the actual nourishment and nurturance that we need. We can do this, but we need to reinvent our lifestyle. We need to reinvent our livelihood. Now, Uranus has been in Taurus for some years, so I'm going to share some metaphors for this time period. And I've shared these metaphors before, but I think it's a really good way of understanding this less is more, simplicity. Because as we're going through this global economic crisis, well, first of all, it's a housing crisis, right? Taurus is property, land, container. It's like a tree house for the squirrel, to be able to fill up that tree with what we love. Well, we're in a housing crisis. The point is that there's not enough houses. Things are not affordability anymore. Have you noticed how inflation is absolutely insane? And things are costing more than even the speed of inflation? So we're in an actual global affordability crisis. It's like what used to be affordable is not affordable. Therefore, collectively, people are feeling and experiencing that they are more poor. So we have to embrace this. This is not the time where we should be necessarily deciding that we need a 12-room mansion, or that we have to have, $1 million in the bank account in order to feel secure. It's just like, do you really? What actually provides security? The same way the person addicted to macaroni and cheese probably has some weird coping mechanism and they're trying to get to a deeper level of security. How do we get that deeper level of security? Well, it's a wisdom of minimalization. So people are going to these, 12-hour day desk jobs for these big companies as these big companies are becoming less secure, and who knows if they're going to even have our backs. And, why are we working 12 hours a day, coming home exhausted, and then falling asleep in our big fancy mansion in front of the big screen TV? When we can sell the mansion, sell the big screen TV, and move into a tiny home. And maybe we've got 10% the amount of space. Maybe we've got to be creative and figure out how to put drawers in and a foldable bed. And, this is the wisdom of Taurus. But now we only have to work 2 hours twice a week. Now we have all of this space, all of this time. We start focusing on our garden. We start eating wonderful, healthy meals. And the result is we feel rich. We feel abundant. I would argue that that is true richness and abundance versus, the rich person in the mansion who's slamming McDonald's every day. That's poverty, even if there's a certain number of digits in the bank account, right? So we can't take those digits and decimal points in the bank account too seriously right now, is the point. You know, what's the actual life that's around us? Who are the people? The nature? You know, what are we actually providing in that real way? Again, this eclipse is going to bring our focus to local community. Taurus is closed circuit. Wisdom of Taurus is the wisdom of this garden. You stick one seed in the earth and all you apply is sunshine and water, and a whole plant comes up with hundreds of more seeds to create hundreds of more plants. That is the reality of this earth. This earth is Taurus. It's the principle of Venus. We have more than enough than what we need if we're smart about it. That's how nature is designed to be. You know, permaculture, you have to invest a lot up front. It's a lot of work. You know, you're really building these garden beds, but then those garden beds may be producing a food forest for decades to come with very little attention in the future. That can be some of our working with this eclipse. It's like we're rolling up our sleeves to build this thing that's then going to be long lasting, durable, steady, you know, rhythmic. Okay. So again, North Node. And this is again the importance of the North Node. That's the future coming in on this eclipse. This eclipse will be followed by a total lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Okay. And that's when we're going to experience the challenges, the interferences, the fears, insecurities coming from the past. We're all going to have this portal open to our unconscious, the stuff that's buried way deep below, and especially the stuff that's stuffed in there. Yeah. It's like the more that we compress down there in our unconscious, the more that loaded spring is going to explode under this lunar eclipse. So we need, again, to be aware that that is going to catalyze our movement towards the simplicity, the steadiness, stability, closed circuit, sovereignty that we need to stay grounded, tethered to our center, and remembering who we are, remembering our values, remembering why we are living our life. These eclipses are very powerful catalysts. This can really be bringing more of our consciousness into our body. And from that, we can really be feeling more alive. We really can be perceiving our senses more. Things can become more colorful. We can hear better. We can taste more when we are more embodied. These eclipses can be initiating certain souls into a true embodied power. To be powerful embodied souls. That stable, confident, situated, relaxed is the key to all of this. Relaxed enough to be powerful catalysts of change. The Buddha was enlightened under Scorpio-Taurus polarity. Was trying to get enlightened the Scorpio ascetic path. You know, push yourself, force yourself, get enlightened, starve yourself. And it's not until a little girl brings the Buddha a bowl of rice, comforts his stomach, his body, his senses, that raises the level of his consciousness and he achieves enlightenment. Taurus is using body, senses, things, material to raise the level of our own consciousness. It is not selfish. It is not selfish. There's a lot of very popular spiritual beliefs that prejudice against Taurus. Oh, material. Separate from God. Oh, the senses. Oh my gosh, that's going to just mislead you from your spiritual life. Pleasure, enjoyment. Ew, how selfish, how lazy. Watch out for those stigmas coming from spiritual circles, traditional society, etc. It's all bullshit. Think about how we use the word Babylon essentially as a replacement for bad, or disorganized or not true. The Babylonian age was the age of Taurus. Okay, the age of Egypt. This was the last time on earth that we really embodied this wisdom of senses, material, consciousness. I mean, think about how the Egyptians were in relationship to their things and preserving those things after death. This was the Taurus age. The point being, our pervasive religions now came after Taurus age, and we're very much demonizing the age of Taurus, and we do not need to do that at this time. Get down into your bodies. Use your bodies. Masturbate. Self-resourceful, sovereign, taking, your own consciousness into your own hands. So to raise the level of your own consciousness, relaxation is the means to empowerment, being more clear, making better decisions. Our world and society almost demonizes relaxation. You have to get rich first, then you can relax. That's crazy talk. How are we going to get rich if we're never relaxed? We're never going to think clear. We're never going to make healthy decisions. So, Taurus medicine, more naps, more snacks, more orgasms, and more walks on the garden. You heard it from me. Make sure you practice your homework. Now, through these next 6 months, a solar eclipse is like a super new moon. We're sowing a seed for the next 6 months until our next set of eclipses towards the end of this year. Now, a really beautiful signature is the ruler of Taurus is Venus. And at the time of this eclipse, we see Venus in Pisces, right in between Jupiter and Neptune. This is an amazing, beautiful, auspicious signature under this solar eclipse. It says that the growth that's taking place can be meaningful growth. This isn't just let's, see how many plastic toys we can gather. That's shadow Taurus, is when it gets into hoarding, or again, like the macaroni and cheese, we get addicted to something that's not really providing nourishment due to some confusion. So it's like, no, this is meaningful growth. Let's grow abundance in a way that is compassionate and oriented towards giving back to the world. This is about creating this stability in a way that has purpose. This is about developing our own fulfillment so that way we can exchange back with the world. There's this wisdom that all is connected. This is a wisdom of creative flow. I mean, this can be a beautiful eclipse. This can really introduce the reality, the possibility that is the path of ease, that we don't have to always force everything in life, that there is a divine plan, that there is a divine dance, and we can attune to that divine dance. Same as we attune to the rising and setting sun and our natural biological rhythm. There is a divine dance that goes beyond our comprehension. There is an interconnected flow that we are all a part of that is truly mystical, inconceivable, miraculous, awe-inspiring. So there is this wisdom of easy flow. If we're truly honoring our value system, if we're truly honoring who we are born to be, we are all rich. We all have God-given talents, traits, and capabilities. We are rich when we fill up our own glass, when we learn how to connect to what we need to stay afloat, to stay stable. We are all rich. We can sow a seed here for love, for compassion, for surrendering to that divine flow. This is a time where synchronicity can be awe-inspiring. Wow, look at these pieces coming together. Look at these people coming together. Look at these systems, these networks, these communities beginning to come together. So again, the crises taking place at this time can be the necessary jump-starting of what may be truly amazing, inspiring times and lives to come. Now, as I mentioned in the prior video, Saturn is square the moon's nodes under these eclipses now and through the rest of this year. And this signature says we've got to be aware of this. It is the time to lay a new foundation for community. It is the time to establish a network of souls, whether this be in the physical, like we're meeting in a local space to talk about what's going on in our local community, or whether we're meeting online to gather together other experts that are going to be inventing and creating these new teachings, these new systems, these new ways of supporting one another. The Saturn in Aquarius square the nodes says now's the time to roll up our sleeves and do the work of creating the new world, the future world. How these communities are existing and the people living within them are going to be existing is very different than how our societies and their suburban neighborhoods, it is creating a new fundamental structure for our species. Again, how we're bringing together the resources, how we are raising future generations. It's creating this new structure for our actual society. But again, this is going to very much be a networking, connecting together the souls, where it's like every soul is a star, and we're finding this cosmological way of relating to one another. We're connecting to the entire universe. And this is where, this network can also be becoming, greater, more extensive, more meaningful, more practical. It's actually working. We're actually building this. We can create these communities, and we can build these networks that are connecting our species together in a new way. Again, this is very much going to be driven by this economic upheaval. Now, the day before the solar eclipse, Pluto also stations retrograde 28 degrees Capricorn, right on the south node of Saturn. And this similarly is saying complete change-up of society. If we're trying to hang on to the old society, the old company, the traditions, how our parents told us we were going to have to live and survive or be in relationships, it's like all of that traditional stuff is the Titanic sinking. Already hit the iceberg. The iceberg was already hit. I mean, that's where we are collectively. But there is going to be this sinking of the traditional structure. Again, we need to be aware that that infrastructure is not the actual means to survive. We've been conditioned that that's true, so, this can bring up fears and insecurities, but we have all the resources, people, know-how on the earth that we need. It's a huge change-up in terms of culture, nations. Powerhouse nations are going to go through a huge tectonic change, tectonic plate type of shift. And we're experiencing those earthquakes here on Earth. Okay. So I'm going to wrap up here just talking a little bit about esoteric Venus. Venus is the Earth. Venus is the principle of abundance. Venus rules the heart, is the principle of resonance. Give and take in balance, in harmony, equanimity. Okay? So that is this earth, that is this planet, that is our bodies. We have what we need. It is Easter time here. Ishtar is a name for Venus, Inanna. Venus is the plan, the purpose, the meaning for life on earth. And what this purpose, what this plan is here on earth is the conjoinment of the cross of matter, joined with the circle of spirit. And this is the sigil of Venus. It is spirit and matter conjoined. This is our body. This is the earth. This earth is meant to be the Garden of Eden. Okay. That's the spiritual plan. It's not that we die, we're graded, and we either spend all eternity in heaven or hell. It is that heaven is here, hell is here, but what is intended is heaven. When human beings get into our center, when we remember who we are tenants. We are gardeners of the earth. We are the protectors of all of the other animal species, all the other plant species. We are the tenants of paradise. We are the tenants of the Garden of Eden. So where we slip off of that and we descend into hell, that's the mess that we're here to clean up, and we can. And by pulling ourselves out of that frying pan, creating the sovereignty, stability, and slowness that we need, we can embody, we can anchor true heaven on this earth. Venus is exalted in Pisces, joined with Jupiter, Neptune at the sign of this eclipse. I think that we can be stepping into this reality of heaven and earth in ever-increasing, even mind-blowing types of ways. So, folks, I am excited for all of us. These eclipses are going to test us, but they can also make us into a new human. A new livelihood is just on the horizon. My dear friends, fans, family, I have created an online community, all ready to go. So Saturn Square the Nodes, I encourage you to join. It's free. There's also membership. subscriptions. Members get extra astrology. They get a Q&A with me every month. That means that I provide for $24 a month, a mini chart reading every month. Whatever's going on in your life, where you're struggling, what questions you have, I'll be there. We'll talk one-on-one. And then we take turns as a group where I do these mini readings. We all support one another and we get to see the astrology test-driven and proven to be true. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. It is so clear, so concise, and so simple when you understand astrology. And that's my number one priority. I would love to see more educated on real deal astrology. Join my Astro School. It is a go at your own pace, online educational opportunity. There I have many dozens of hours of video, and every month I add a new lesson. Over the last year, I've built up the curriculum to cover all of the fundamentals of evolutionary astrology. In the next few months, we're going to have all those fundamentals down. So you can join my Astro School for just $36 at a go-at-your-own-pace rhythm, Honor Taurus. You can educate yourself in some of the deepest, most meaningful astrology that currently exists. I'm so passionate to get this through to other people, but even if you're just looking for a community of like minds, say you're an artist, you're a musician, you're a healer, please join my community. Share yourself, share your magic, your medicine, your treasures, because there's a really beautiful show and tell that's taking place there at RasalilaCommunity.com. And we're building this new reality. We're having results, and we get to really enjoy this show and tell. There's a lot we can gain, and there's a lot that we can, appreciate in ourselves by bringing our treasure out on the table. So I look forward to seeing, meeting, and hearing from you all there. And until next time, take care. We'll be talking about total lunar eclipse in Scorpio, mid-May 2022.